Hey everyone, it's Friday. Welcome back to The Moment Live. As always, I do believe I'm still Meredith Lynch, and she's still my co-host, Rebecca Senanez. We're happy to be with you guys today. We have such a good guest today. It's so funny because when we first started the show, the OGs will remember we were just on TikTok. It was sometimes a shit show because sometimes my sister, shout out Nora, would call during it and I'd like everything would go dark.
I forgot about that.
Remember when Nora would call? By the way, my sisters, I picked up the phone. I called my sisters yesterday and it was like 8 a.m. and they were like, wait, what are you doing? We're trying to watch your live. And I was like, wait, I'm live somewhere? And then they were like, oh my God, it's not Friday. I was like, no, it's not. And like, you guys just scared me that like I had accidentally been live somewhere. But we are so much more.
We love their appointment listening, which is like, that is what we are here for, the appointment listeners, even if they're just our sisters.
Right. So we are so excited though, because we have a guest who was one of our first guests. And she's a fan favorite, a favorite of mine. You know, Eliza Orlins. She was a career public defender for 15 years in Manhattan. She also appeared on 2 seasons of Survivor. She has some of the most, I think, important commentary right now on all the ins and outs of the legal happenings, but also like, we'll get to it. Such a great time to have her on when it comes to all things CBS, Survivor. And also, like, in a way, Eliza, I was thinking about this, like, it also feels kind of in line with all that's coming out around the America's Next Top Model documentary, right? Like, I feel like some of what you're experiencing is sort of like this opportunity for people to be like, yeah, actually, the way that these places operate, not great. So anyway, really excited you're here. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me. It's always so great to chat with you both. And thank you for the lovely intro. You know, I wish I could just bring you around with me everywhere to introduce me like that, you know.
I'm willing to do that.
So much. I feel like it comes from such a genuine place, you know, like it's the truth. Would be happy to intro you to everybody and be like, Eliza is a special one.
Yeah. Well, she needs no introduction, but Hillary Clinton was doing closed-door testimony yesterday about what her relationship was to Jeffrey Epstein. And we have a fantastic guest coming in today. Everybody knows Tara Palmeri, who's done, I mean, really and truly, no one's dedicated, I think, more sort of time and energy to giving a voice to the Epstein survivors than Tara, among so many other things she's done in this. So we're going to be talking to her about that, but we'll talk about it a little here. We're going to talk about the Warner Brothers, Paramount, and media situation, which has evolved quite rapidly in the last 24 hours. And also, Eliza, you know, she came on and I mean, I want to say you dropped a bomb, but like at the same time, it's kind of like it was all sort of happening, right? Like it's, you know, someone could have connected the dots and seen a lot of these things coming. We might get to talk about Mamdani at the White House. We'll see. We might not have time. And then Tara will come on. So excited. I want to, you know, first of all, give just a minute to talk about the Clinton testimony. Did you guys see sort of Hillary's comments, or I shouldn't call her Hillary. This is like a misogyny thing. But did you see former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton's comments after she came out of giving her testimony?
I'm going to let Eliza go first. Yeah. Like, let's let Eliza.
I did.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so offensive to me that this was a closed door thing. You know, that for 6 hours, she testified in a way that we weren't able to just be watching the entire thing. You know, they claim they want transparency, and yet the Republicans just refused to allow her to testify publicly. So instead, we're hearing this at like a press conference after. And of course, I read her brilliant opening remarks. So I think we can assume what was actually said inside, you know, that she continued to repeatedly answer the same questions over and over. But yeah, it's, you know, it's disappointing that we weren't able to just watch the live stream of her testimony.
Can I ask you guys this? Like, for me, it's not so much about the Clintons and Epstein. It's like this Republican obsession with the Clintons that they just cannot let go, because like Hillary Clinton's connection is not to Jeffrey Epstein. It's as an acquaintance of Ghislaine Maxwell. So like, Rebecca, why do you think why are the Republicans like so horned up for the Clintons.
You know, I was actually thinking about this as I was brushing my teeth this morning. You and I had an end of year episode where we gave a bunch of like joke awards, the mommies. And I forget exactly what award, but I think we were like most likely to be held accountable for the Epstein files, Hillary Clinton, you know, of course. And I actually think that the Republicans have made like an optics political error here by sandwiching them together. Because from what I see, I actually do think Bill Clinton has things to answer for. Like he's in pictures, in pools, he's been on the plane multiple times. Whereas Hillary Clinton, for all of her faults, of which, you know, whatever, you know, we can enumerate them, like I didn't see her in the files in any sort of way that made me say this is somebody worth bringing to Congress and asking questions. And so sandwiching them together, I think actually dilutes the case, because if you were to just focus on Bill Clinton, I think you would make a much stronger case. And so in some ways, I'm like, I think that they've tripped themselves up here. Like, yes, it's misogyny. Yes, it's all these things. But like, I also think that they made an error because Hillary so clearly, you know, like she so clearly knew nothing of Epstein. You know, the only question that I heard in the press conference that I was like, oh, this is something I was curious about is what was Ghislaine Maxwell doing as a guest at Chelsea Clinton's wedding back in like 2010 or whatever. And Hillary was like, she was a +1 of a guest, you know? And like, I don't know, that is truly the only thing that I've seen come in the files that I was like, that's what I would like Hillary Clinton to answer for. Anyways, I think the Republicans have made an optical, you know, political error here in bringing them together.
Couldn't agree more. I think Hillary's connection to this is attenuated at best, and having them testify in the same, you know, 2-day period, it is ridiculous. I mean, if you're thinking about like building a legal case, you wouldn't start with like your weakest witness. You know, it's like when I think about what prosecutors have done, you know, if you have a strong case, you lead with your strong witness. You know, you lead with someone who has like true proximity to culpability, whereas Hillary really doesn't. And so I think like there's this gendered aspect to it. It's like you have to answer for your husband.
Which she's done her whole public life, you know?
Of course. And also like, you know, we always hold women responsible for men's conduct, you know? It's just such a typical thing. It's like a structural problem. But I think like you're right. Like this was a huge miscalculation because like there's nothing for her to answer for.
It's very like they can't even spin yarn about it. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's why they ultimately decided to do this closed door is I think that they kind of like got out ahead of their skis a little bit. You know, I have a question for both of you is what did you think about the Lauren Boebert leaking a photo from the testimony and then Benny Johnson puts it on social media? They have to pause the whole thing. Like, why do you think Lauren Boebert did that? And what is it? Yeah, go ahead.
I don't think she has a fully formed frontal lobe. I think that's why she did it. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like, because I don't know, maybe 3 weeks ago, I saw her coming out of the, you know, there was the closed door session where people got to see the unredacted files and everyone was leaving. Democrats and Republicans being like, what I saw was absolutely horrible. Ghislaine Maxwell should be like in prison for the rest of her life. That was like, right? That was what we were hearing. So to me, if you care so much about the, you know, sensitivity of this, even though I know like it should be public, it shouldn't have been whatever. Why aren't you respecting the rules, right? Like these are the rules. Let's go by them. Why are you breaking them? And it's just because she wants like a viral, weird moment. And that's to me the only reason that she did it. She doesn't actually care about the survivors or about like the rules that were agreed upon. And that's what I think. But I'd love to hear what Eliza thinks.
Well, so I have to disagree with you a little bit because you say, you know, she doesn't have a fully formed frontal lobe, you know, like that this was stupid. But I actually think that it was deliberate and intentional and, you know, basically strategic on her part. I mean, obviously I disagree with it, but I think that what she was doing was basically trying to create this visual narrative, this association between Clinton and Epstein, regardless of evidence. Obviously, we know that like there is no real evidence when it comes to Hillary, but it's like this is the strategic value for Republicans, is regardless of evidence, just trying to like create this association, generate these leakable moments, which Boebert delivered for them, that the right-wing media picks it up. Benny Johnson is tweeting it out. It occupies the news cycle. It muddles, the actual story, which is how screwed up and damaging, what Epstein and Maxwell and these folks really did, what the people in power actually did to these victims and survivors. It kind of muddies the message. And so I think it was intentional, and I wouldn't call it smart, because I think it's, obviously there's no actual connection there, but I do think that it was deliberate and, strategic on her part.
Mm-hmm.
I also wonder, I'm just like thinking about this now, is I worry that this is all going to end in more fatigue. Like if this, like who is ever going to be held accountable for any of this? It's such a clown show. They're bringing in Hillary Clinton. There's leaks from it. Hillary Clinton actually pointed out there were no Republicans at Les Wexner's hearing last week. I just get the sense this is going to drag out, and it's confusing to people. Why was it closed door? What are they hiding? And I think that it's going to result in more American fatigue, which maybe that's the point,
What I've been really heartened by is how little fatigue there seems to be when it comes to Epstein. You worry that when a story like this breaks, that after a day, a week, a month, people are like, okay, I'm exhausted, move on to the next thing. But as someone who has been reading these files continuously, covering this case continuously, and what's going on with it, I have actually been really impressed by the sustained interest in this. And it is, I think it is not going away, that it is going to continue, and that the interest is just mounting, and that we're seeing kind of a shift in terms of this being bipartisan, that people are not okay with this, that, the flagrant guys are speaking out, that Joe Rogan is speaking, that all these people who have been kind of longtime Trump supporters are saying, wait a minute, this is a line that how is anyone okay with this abuse of children, the sexual assault and trafficking of children. So that's what I'm hoping, that it continues in that direction.
In a minute, we're going to talk to Tara Palmeri about this DOJ seemingly obfuscation of files relating to Trump. And I'm really interested in that, because that actually feels like it could be a bomb for Trump, although Teflon Don. But before we do that, I want to talk about a story that came in yesterday afternoon, which it looks like Warner Brothers, which was going to be bought up by Netflix. That was sort of the big thing. Then Paramount came in and gave a different bid. It now looks like Paramount Skydance is going to be acquiring Warner Brothers. As a reminder, Paramount Skydance is run by David Ellison, who's the son of a major Trump donor and pal. Among the things that they've bought up is CBS. And to that end, Eliza has a relationship with CBS, let's say. And
not anymore.
Okay, there you go. Not anymore.
A connection, yes.
A connection. And this was something that I was watching happen on your Instagram this week before this latest fallout. But you were on Survivor for 2 seasons about a year ago, and I'm gonna lay this story out. You tell me what I'm getting wrong. About a year ago, you posted screenshots of a fellow cast member who had said was praising Trump, was supporting Trump. You weren't editorializing. You put it out there. She sends you a nasty message. You ignore it. Then she goes forward and she puts a social media video out, and I watched it and I decided not to put it on the show, where she says truly foul anti-Semitic things, both overt anti-Semitic things and dog whistles, the kind of shit that I see on the internet day in and day out. It is just to editorialize it, it is rampant out there. It is inescapable. It is part of our lives every single day, and we're not allowed to talk about it somehow. Anyways, you did talk about it. You put out a video calling her out. But what's interesting is CBS didn't come to the rescue. This got a lot of attention, and CBS seemed to do nothing about it. So I want to ask you about this, especially considering the Barry Weiss of it all, who, we'll talk about Barry Weiss in a second. But Eliza, let's talk about this. Bring me up to speed.
So, you recapped the story pretty well. This is something that, it's, I didn't want to make this story about me because it's not really about me. This is just kind of something that's so emblematic of the right turn that we've seen CBS take. It was the Colbert getting canceled, the pulling the CCOT interview, on 60 Minutes, where they were covering the horrific prison in El Salvador, all the media consolidation that we're seeing, that this is a Trump donor, someone who attended the State of the Union. This is something that he was a guest at the State of the Union. This is something that this extraordinary consolidation of power under like one person who has documented political alignment with the current administration is so dangerous. And so, calling it out, I felt was so important. And I think any of us who've ever called out anti-Semitism know that usually it just results in more anti-Semitism.
I was gonna say, how many more people? Yeah. Yes.
It's just it's brutal, but I kind of felt like this story had to be told, and I had to call it out because CBS had an opportunity, for 6 months. Yes, she had already been cast on the show, but they had an opportunity to disavow her disgusting, vile, anti-Semitic rant. They had an opportunity to say, listen, she's on the show, but we're going to edit around her. We're going to, not put her on the red carpet and promote her.
Can I just add, that's very common. Like, this happens on reality shows all the time. It happened. I saw it happen on Love Island. I think
The Challenge, Love Island.
Like, people will also, they will pull people. They'll find a tweet from 10 years ago. And I'm not saying that like, that's the wrong thing to do. I'm saying like, they will pull people over things that are much smaller than that. And they will get rid of them, or they will edit around them. And it happens all the time. So I am so confused.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think it's entirely appropriate what happened to Jill Zarin after her racist comments of the Bad Bunny concert, but like it's very similar, it was like we've seen reality TV stars be pulled for racist comments in recent history too. It's not even like you know
exactly, and so it was so wild that this happened, and then that, I put this video out this week. The Survivor premiere was Wednesday night. We had already discussed me coming on the show today. Yeah. And then literally this bid falls through last night. I really feel like I was this canary in the coal mine where I was publicly sounding the alarm about CBS's political drift and its willingness to protect certain voices over others at this moment when, mainstream media is treating, it's just Survivor, it's entertainment gossip. No, but like the network's behavior showed that this was not like some isolated failure. This was a preview of like their editorial values. And now this is being replicated on a much larger scale. And it's really dangerous for democracy, for the First Amendment. I mean, it is really, really scary.
Well, also just throwing it out there, Warner Brothers includes CNN, right?
Correct.
Right? And so now it's like they're going to have CBS, they're going to have CNN. I wonder who they'd put, in there in charge of CNN. It's just like a monopoly on what used to be, corporate media, but with a certain amount of freedom that now it feels like has a distinct right wing and aggressively right wing, vantage.
Exactly. And, obviously you mentioned the Barry Weiss of it all, but it's like, this is a person who, like, didn't she literally write the book on anti-Semitism, right? So it's anti-Semitism is anti-Semitism regardless of the political stance of the person deploying it, right? I mean, it should be anti-Semitism is unacceptable regardless of which side of the aisle it's coming from. And apparently that is not the case.
Well, it's also like this broader, and like, we don't have time for this conversation here, but it's this broader conversation about anti-Semitism, Israel, like Barry Weiss sort of is more protective of Israel than anti-Semitism. It all becomes a proxy for something else. And I see this on the left and the right, where it's like, these stand-ins for Jewish identity. But ultimately what gets lost are the people like you who get called a fucking Jew on the internet,
Well, I think we might have our guest with us in the waiting room. And I'm so excited this person is here today.
Me too. We've been wanting to talk to Tara for a while. Do we have Tara in the room?
I think we do.
Hi.
Icon. Good morning.
Hey guys, thanks so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here. Thanks.
Thank you. For anybody who doesn't know, Tara Palmeri is the author of Red Letter. She's the host of the Tara Palmeri Show. Tara has been, like, other than Julie K. Brown down in Miami, probably the person who I've most trusted and followed the Epstein case for years. Like, you're a dog with a bone. And I think for the people, I've always felt like you were one of the few people who were doing it from the corner of the survivors. And so that makes you a special reporter. But I wanted to start today to talk about what looks like it might be a cover-up by the DOJ and talk about these missing files. So if anybody missed it, there was a report from NPR, but first from an independent journalist, that there were allegations from a Jane Doe that came forward in 2019 alleging that Trump had raped her when she was a teenager in connection to Jeffrey Epstein. And what NPR found was that only one of those documents ended up in the release of the Epstein files. And so now there's all sorts of questions about, like, what ended up in there, what didn't end up in there, and why. So Tara, what did you make of this story? Was it something that you had been following or looking for?
You know, I wasn't aware of it. It didn't, I'll be honest with you, a lot of the lawsuits that were filed, like, after Trump's presidency into, like, 2019, 2020, 24. And it's not to say that they're not true. It's just that, like, they weren't the basis of a lot of the original reporting that I did in 2019. Actually, Julie K. Brown was the executive producer on the podcast that I worked on. So I wasn't really familiar with that case. I also wasn't aware of Jeffrey, like, in South Carolina. That's not to say he wasn't there, or Trump. So it was a new story for me. I had never heard it before. And there are a number of things that are in the files, though, that I had never heard before. And that's not to say they're not true, because his network did extend really wide. I guess for me, I'm curious to see, what kind of rigor did the FBI actually engage in to find out if this was a legitimate complaint? Was it politically motivated? I always kind of look at a lot of it through that lens as well, especially when it's reported so late and in the middle of an election cycle. And so, did they actually follow up on this and take it seriously because of the gravity of the crimes? Did they dismiss it like they have with so many sex crimes cases, particularly the Epstein files, where often the 302s and the depositions and the sworn testimony under oath by survivors is treated like gossip? And so I think the fact that they removed it, it just suggests to me a broader pattern. Whether this is actually a legitimate complaint, it's very concerning that it would be removed. And we have to also be questioning, what else are they holding back? And so whether this is a legitimate complaint or not, I just think that the bigger problem is it suggests a cover-up. I don't know any other word to describe it. We've seen a number of examples in which the names of prominent men have been redacted. Like the Emirati billionaire who was messaging Epstein about torture videos. Why was his name redacted? We have 2.5 million files that we still haven't seen yet. Are they all national security? Are they all victim related? There's an entire paragraph that's blanked out where an attorney for the survivors interviewed Donald Trump about Jeffrey Epstein. That is entirely blanked out.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's like, and I know that attorney is Brad Edwards. He represented Jane Doe 1 in the Crime Victims' Rights Act. I've spoke to him extensively. He actually told me about this interview. But why is that blanked out? So I think instead of getting too caught up in the veracity of the claims, which we should try to verify if that person wants to come forward and pursue a lawsuit against it. And frankly, Trump, I think, should testify before Congress or before the SDNY or whoever's taking up the case. But even more so, I think we have to think about the fact that what else are they holding back?
Yeah, I feel like that's like a president thing. Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead, Meredith.
No, this is like a very in the weeds question. But I feel like Tara's the perfect person to ask this. Are you hearing that documents that were in the files like 2 weeks ago are going missing or are no longer searchable or there? That's okay.
My dog just reacted.
We have several dogs that bark in the background, so we never know whose it is.
So you're saying the fact that they removed files 2 weeks ago,
like over the last couple of weeks, are people hearing that?
I haven't heard that specifically, but I am concerned with the fact that they're tracking members of Congress and what they're looking at.
Mm-hmm.
I think because there are so many files, 3 million, that they're probably able to move in and out of the files pretty easily and remove things, as they want to, and probably without so many online sleuths, which I'm part of the independent journalism I'm happy to see, is that so many people are engaged in this story, it wouldn't be caught, right? Even Thomas Massey said, you redacted something and then unredacted it after I mentioned it to you, to the FBI. And so it just suggests that it's both sloppy and it is perhaps deliberate. I would think so. I mean, there are people that were so close to Jeffrey Epstein, like Leon Black, who was accused by multiple women of sexual assault, and there's been no follow-up. And so I just think that it's really hard to trust the Justice Department on this one. And then they're going to do their own investigation into what happened with those files, and we're supposed to trust that.
Yeah, well, they put a banner of Trump's face on the DOJ.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Exactly. Leon Black is a special interest of mine because he's a big private equity guy. He's an Apollo guy, et cetera. He moved to the UK, I think, when this all came out. And so one of the questions that I had when these Epstein files came out is like, what would come out about Leon Black? But all there really is about Leon Black is just like, I'm having lunch with him. I'm doing this with him. There's nothing there about Leon Black of substance. And I think that's impossible that there isn't anything more in emails about him. And they just haven't been released.
Well, there's a memo. There's a memo that the FBI put together with allegations about Leon Black. When the FBI was serious about pursuing, perpetrators, co-conspirators, there's a memo that names Leon Black and the allegations against him. So I just mean like conversations, like Epstein and Black, like there's no real communication in the files between the two of them that I've found. Oh, yeah, that's a good point. You mean in the emails?
Yeah, in the emails. Everything is, I'm meeting with him, I'm seeing him, I'm whatever. Yes, there's allegations. Yes, the FBI has looked into it, but there's no like, you would not think that there was a huge, like, other than the fact that they were physically together all the time. They were together quite a bit.
Some of these people, I want to hear what Eliza, but some of these people, like Trump doesn't email. And he doesn't email on purpose. And like, I just like, I've had jobs like this with like very savvy people who are in the media eye and like part of lawsuits. And like, we did not email because nobody wanted, because of exactly this is like, I think there are savvy people who are like, we can do this on the phone or in person, but nowhere where somebody, like,
I guess maybe, I don't think that Trump is that savvy about like nothing in writing. I don't think he's actually.
Oh, really?
No, he calls the iPad the flat one. Like he's just used to having.
He just doesn't email. Yeah.
No, he doesn't email. He actually texts. I've texted with him before. Actually, he's getting into that now. Yeah, he does. He's just an old guy, and he's always had secretaries and assistants that do everything for him.
Interesting.
So I think what's interesting is that like,
but I do agree that we don't know much about their relationship in the 90s because there wasn't email then. I mean, he's lucky. Written communication. All we have is that birthday card, really. Yeah. We don't have much else.
I think what really ties Black in though is like, what we're not talking about nearly enough is the fact that like, yes, these are the files from the Justice Department and but Senator Wyden is the chair of the Finance Committee, the Senate Finance Committee, and he's been talking about these financial documents that we should also, everyone's like, release the Epstein files. Like we should be talking about release the Epstein files on the financial side because Senator Wyden and his team have been able to review these documents, but otherwise we have not seen them in the public. And, this number is what, 170 million that was provided to Black from Epstein. And like this stuff, like he this money funded the trafficking. Like, this is exactly what is, this is what's behind all of it. And so I think like we should be demanding that those files be released so that we can review them, because that's really like where Black is going to get tied up in all this, regardless of if there are email communications between them.
Yeah, there's a lot. The money exchange is really the thing that brought it to the forefront. The fact that he was paid $153 million for accounting services. I think we're going to see a lot of transactions that raise eyebrows and people wondering, why are they overpaying like that? Is it money laundering? Is it for sex? Is it for this? It's a really important thing that they start releasing those files, the transactions. Although you are starting to see some come forward, and it's strange. I mean, we need a little bit more context. We definitely need more context around that. Again, 2.5 million files still have not been released. And I think everybody needs to kind of just think about that. And also actually digest what we've seen so far and what kind of impact it's had. One email showing that Prince Andrew was essentially selling state secrets, taking down a prince, Peter Mandelson, those emails being revealed. There's so much more that we haven't seen. And it's interesting that they strategically implicate people from, other countries, dignitaries from other countries. What about our own country? Yeah. That's the thing. We still really haven't gotten down to how Jeffrey Epstein got this sweetheart deal.
Yeah.
Do you think any of this ever will reach the United States? Like this DOJ seemingly cover up seems like the closest thing that like looks like previous president. It's not about the crime, it's about the cover up. Feels like something that maybe would be able to touch Trump. Do you see anything happening in the United States, or is it just going to peter out eventually here?
I'm sure that's what a lot of people hope. I think people like us keep the pressure on and the survivors. But I also think there's a lot of anger towards the elites. I think it's the only thing anyone can talk about. I think people are shocked when Bill Gates admits that he was with two Russian girls through Epstein. I think it shows that everyone all along who has been denying anything about really has been denying the story, that they have been lying. And it just is a reminder that all the people who are leading the institutions, academia, finance, tech, science, politics, that they've been lying all along. So I think for a lot of people, it probably will lead to a sort of populist revolt that's been churning for a long time against the elites.
I think that too.
Yeah. I mean, there is just one file that's really caught my eye, and that was the one where Epstein's attorneys were asking the CIA and the NSA for proof of affiliation. And, you don't do that unless you think that can help you in some way. And and they responded with a Glomar response, which was like, we can neither confirm nor deny because it could impact classified records, sourcing, et cetera. It's just like, why were they asking these intelligence agencies for affiliation? And it kind of helps you understand how he was able to live without impunity for so long.
My big question still is, who was Jeffrey Epstein? It's such an odd, I feel like that's an unanswered question. It's like, it doesn't really make sense to me where he was getting his money, like how he went from like a kid in Brooklyn to this international mastermind.
No, I know. It's like, that's the thing. I mean, the New York Times actually had a really good report on this, and they explained how many people sort of helped him along the way. And it goes all the way back to when he started working for Bill Barr's father at Dalton as a math teacher, even though he was a college dropout. And this is an elite school.
Right.
One that Anderson Cooper attended, and he's a Vanderbilt. Right. This is like how elite it was. And then Ace Greenberger, head of AIG, takes him in. And it's just like, there are so many prominent men who helped Epstein along the way, even though he was sort of seen as a con artist at the same time. And he helped the feds along the way with various cases. He was a part of a Ponzi scheme when he was really young. $300 million Ponzi scheme, one of the largest in the country at that time, possibly the world, with Stephen Hoffenberg, who died in prison for it. But Epstein went to the feds and spilled, so he got to stay. And I think that's when he started his long and cozy relationship with the intelligence communities and law enforcement. And that's how he was able to sort of be protected all these years.
What I find so interesting is the culpability of, of law enforcement, not to mention, not just at the federal level, but like these prosecutors, who really, when I was thinking of launching my campaign, when I first thought I was going to run against Cy Vance, I thought he was going to be seeking re-election. And so I was kind of calling him out for this Jeffrey Epstein stuff, literally in 2018, 2019, saying, this guy, and I didn't have evidence of it at the time. I was saying Cy Vance, who is the Manhattan District Attorney, like basically did not go after Jeffrey Epstein for these sex trafficking, for these sex crimes, basically asked for like a lower level of sex offender registry. Like they never asked for downward departures on anyone ever, and all this stuff. And I was like, he's basically cozying up to, he like really screwed up a lot of these cases, like the DSK case and initially Harvey Weinstein and all this. But it was so fascinating. And so of course, when these files dropped, I immediately looked it up. And like, of course they were at private dinners together. Epstein was hosting Democratic fundraisers for Vance's reelection campaign, and it's like these prosecutors who gave him these sweetheart deals, these non-prosecution agreements, these, downward departures, the Palm Beach PD, probably the NYPD, all of them were so, excuse my language, fucking complicit in this. They allowed this to continue. They allowed this to go on, even if they weren't the ones who were like perpetrating the abuse themselves, like they were absolutely complicit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think no, it was an institutional like conspiracy. I don't know how else to describe it. When so many people are involved in protecting one person, it went all the way up to the Attorney General in the Bush administration.
Well, today testimony continues. Bill Clinton is testifying today. Hillary Clinton testified yesterday. As of before we did the show, we don't have that full testimony yet, correct? I don't know. Maybe it came out while we've been doing this. But there has been demand to release that and to release it very quickly. I guess my question for Tara is like, if you were able to ask Hillary Clinton questions around this, if you were on that committee, what question would you actually have for her?
Oh, I would want to know. I'm not sure that I believe that she didn't know anything about Bill's relationship with Epstein. I'm a little dubious about that. I want to know, Ghislaine Maxwell, she said she was in her social circles. She was at Chelsea's wedding. People said, oh, she was a plus one of Ted Wyatt, her boyfriend. Come on, it's Chelsea Clinton's wedding. It's a highly vetted, event.
I know, like wedding crashers are coming. Like, did I just?
Yeah, I know who did that event, and I did events with them, and I will tell you, every single person, because I did Secret Service level events with that same event company that did Chelsea Clinton's wedding, and I will tell you that there's no way they don't know exactly every single thing about what got her there.
They know it's going to be covered by everyone. It's absurd. We have to remember, Epstein was really wealthy. CGI required, a lot of money. Then Ghislaine had this extensive Rolodex. She was also invited to the Clinton Global Initiative, CGI, their annual event, as a VIP guest.
Right.
And this was after the allegations were made against her, and she was in a civil suit with Virginia Giuffre, which she had to settle. So, I think that to go there and be indignant about it is really inappropriate. Mm-hmm. Now, I think she makes some really strong points about the fact that there was not a single Republican that went to go see Les Wexner, who is the key to all of this. The man who was behind Epstein's wealth, who stayed by him, the founder of Victoria's Secret, limited brand. He's a huge part of this story. And it just shows you that this is really political theater. No one's really interested in getting down to the bottom of it. So that was was interesting. Ask my husband was an interesting response to me. And I do think probably Bill has more to do with this relationship, but also Doug Band, who worked for him at the Clinton Global Initiative. He clearly maintained this Epstein relationship. They went on trips together. I mean, it was not just one, like it's just multiple. It's really something else. Apparently Bill Clinton is delivering his opening statement right now, but I don't think they can just be indignant. I think it's great that they came out there and they testified. And I know Comer said, well, Trump is asked about this all the time. It's different to lie to the press or, say I'm exonerated. Same three things he always
he's
said.
barely asked, frankly.
Yeah.
He's also then sitting president, right.
Like. Exactly. Then to, yes, I agree. And it's definitely different. And so being under oath before a committee is really a totally different experience.
Yeah.
And you can be charged with perjury. And so
as Glenn has been.
As Glenn has been, exactly. And I feel like for the Republicans, they're not really taking this seriously at all. But I think it was a decent sign from the Clintons. Mm-hmm. But again, it just reminds everyone that money trumps all, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So to speak.
Yeah.
Well, Tara, thank you so much for joining us. Can you remind our friends where they can find you?
Yeah. So I write the Substack, The Red Letter, which you can find at tarapalmeri.com. And I also have a YouTube show, and it's called The Tara Palmeri Show. You can listen to on Spotify, Apple iTunes, wherever you get your podcasts. Guys, thanks so much for having me. This was really fun.
Thank you so
Sorry,
much.
my throat is so groggy. I've been suffering with a bit of
you've been everywhere. It's a bit
my throat. I'm starting to give out my throat, but you know what? I keep going. So we all do.
Tara, you're amazing.
So great. See you later.
Thank you for everything.
Of course. Bye.
Yeah, Tara is an amazing reporter. There was
what a rock star.
One of my fascinations has been there was a Katie Doe back in 2016 who put forth a lawsuit against Jeffrey Epstein that included the fact that Trump had raped her. It's like this long story, and it sort of came out with the files, even though it's been in front of us this whole time. And when I went to go do like a deep dive to sort of like familiarize myself with it was just like Tara's name. It was like Tara who had been tracking the story this whole time. And it was just so interesting to see like how long she had been on this story versus what's coming out now. So she's been, dogged.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the things that I was thinking about is like, I think she brings up some really good points about Hillary Clinton's relationship to Ghislaine, right? So there's that. But the thing is like, okay, if there are those things, why waste time and energy asking her things about UFOs and Pizzagate and all this get into the fucking weeds of why she was at the wedding. Like, that's what I would say. Like and to Eliza's point at the beginning, it's like, when you think about how you interview people, especially like when they're on this, you're wasting time, you're wasting energy, and you're diluting then when the public reads it, it's like when you're like, they asked her about Pizzagate, they asked her about UFOs. I'm not going to pay attention to how
I don't know what's going on
about Ghislaine. I mean, it works in Hillary Clinton's favor in a way that the Republicans probably don't even realize.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like I said, I think this whole thing was an optics trip. I think that they were like, oh, maybe we can pin this on the Clintons, and they messed up the order of operations of how they would go about doing that,
Yeah, for sure. Well, what's having a moment for you guys? I'll kick it to Eliza first. What's having a moment for you right now?
Oh God. I mean, like this Epstein stuff has really just been so on my mind. It's just hard to think about anything else when it's just so all consuming.
Yeah.
I really think it's having a moment, but not just among Democrats. This is something that there's, I know that it's embargoed, but that it's coming out on Monday, like this this unbelievable polling that Navigator did that the data is showing that overwhelmingly Americans are now saying they want accountability for the people in the Epstein files. Like I think it's like 3/4 of Americans now believe there should be prosecutions and investigations into the people associated with Epstein. And so that's bipartisan. It is, I think it's overwhelming, obviously, among Democrats, but even among Republicans now, it's the majority. So this is something that I think is really having a moment, that this is not something that is a partisan issue. This is not something that we should all be thinking, oh, well, it's just one side or the other. This is something where now overwhelmingly Americans are saying the government is covering up wrongdoing, and this conviction persists across political parties.
I think I took Tara's point, like, to that end, that I think what's going to happen is less likely specific accountability in this country and more a push to a populist revolution. Like, I think that there's already this like angst and anger at both an imagined and real upper class elite. And I think you're right. Like, I think this is going to be part of an overall backlash to the people who've been in power. Like, I think people are sick of it.
Yeah. Let's go.
Let's
Yeah.
go.
Let's fucking go.
Lock in, bro.
Yeah. Lock in, bro.
Rebecca, what's having a moment?
Oh, Jinx.
Whatever. It doesn't matter. Jinx.
It doesn't matter.
I'll say what's having a moment for me. I think like just being a woman on the internet, like it's fucking rough, man. Like even today, like I'm just looking at the TikTok comments that are coming in, and good news for both of you. They're mostly directed at me. And it's just like, I got a lot of backlash for some of the content that I made around the men's hockey team. And I think like for me, what is so crazy is like, we keep telling people how it feels when you say certain things, and it just doesn't fucking matter. Like, I think every woman felt that collective groan when they heard Trump make the joke about the women's ice hockey team.
We were like, yeah, we get it.
Right. And like one of the things that the men have come out and said is they're like, we love the women on the team. We hang out with them. We spend time with them. And I'm like, I don't doubt that for a second. I don't doubt for a second that you guys have fun, that you spend time together, that you're happy for them. I don't doubt that for a second. It's that larger sort of misogyny that women have just learned to put up with every single day. And it's like every time that I think we're making progress away from it, we just take like a huge step back. And I guess like somebody made a video, they were saying like, everyone's talking about the men's hockey team, but what they should be talking about is Trump. And it's like, here's the thing. 6 months from now, no one's going to be talking about the men's hockey team thing anymore.
I know,
all these guys right? Like these men are all going back to their regular teams that they play on. They're not on a collective team together. Like we'll still be
talking. The US has like a great love of hockey. You know what I mean? Like it's not like American football,
Oh, don't tell that to my husband. But he told me he could not. My husband played hockey in high school, and he told me the other night that give him an hour on the rink and he could land a double axel.
Wow.
Like, wow. Okay. That is
I would pay to see it, Mike. I would pay.
That's a bold fucking statement and a long emergency room trip.
Let's see it.
Yeah.
Double axel.
Got it. Why not a triple?
Yeah. So anyway, which like, he and I can talk about later about how that could be rooted in misogyny as well.
Actually, there are some hilarious videos of figure skaters trying to play hockey and hockey players trying to do figure skating moves. And like both ways, it's not good.
Right. Yeah. That's the thing. And so anyway, I just think it's just a shame. And anyway, that's it. Rebecca, what's having a moment for you?
Mine is a guilty pleasure. I'm not proud of it, but what's having a moment for me is Love Story, the JFK Jr. Carolyn Bessette show. I just love it. I love being in that like late 90s world. I know that it's like icky to be making shows about people who've passed away, who like can't contribute and like have living family members. but like maybe what I'm saying more is like the late 90s is having a moment for me, is like to be in that aesthetic before there was cell phones, before the World Trade Center, before when you know, like, of course, there's always been like horrific beauty standards, but it was like people's real faces. You know, Carolyn Bessette had an original face. I'm so like loving the aesthetic of this world that feels like I remember it and I can see the images of it and it's gone at the same time, and we'll never really get it back in the same way. So guilty pleasure. That's having a moment.
Here's why it's freaking me out.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's totally, go for it. Tell me why it's freaking you out.
It freaks me out because I think, you know, my mom was not that much older than Carolyn Bessette when she died. Mm-hmm. And what happens with women when they die at an age where like they're still considered young looking is we kind of like memorialize them in a way that I think it's true of Princess Diana. I think it's true of Carolyn Bessette. And I think it becomes really complicated because we cling to these little things that we know about them because they never had a chance to like fully live out a life.
Yeah.
And I think it can get kind of not, I don't want to say dangerous, but like I'm seeing everyone be like, this was exactly her style. She'd never wear this. She'd never wear that now. And I think that's a really hard thing to do. We only have so many photos of Carolyn Bessette. That's the other thing. Like she lived at a time where like not every moment was documented. So we have these like very few photos of her that we can like hang on to. And,
part of her aesthetic was that she didn't have any like nothing about her aesthetic contributed to like a trend or a time. And so I think on top of everything else, the photos that we have for her are so like both of a time and timeless. Like she really captured an image in that moment that she couldn't have known would live on in this like intense fetishistic way. I get it. I'm not, I said guilty pleasure. No, like I also bought a thing of Kit Kat, and you know, that's, you know, having a moment for me too.
Totally fine. I'm just like,
that show is having a moment. I feel like everybody's talking about it. It's like
everybody's talking about it.
All of a sudden,
are you watching it, Eliza?
I have not started watching it, but I think I might need to because it is having a moment. You know, I do sort of like, you know, if the Kennedy family, who's been through so much, objected to the show being made without their input, and Ryan Murphy basically told them to go fuck themselves, you know, that obviously makes me feel a little conflicted about it. Yeah. And apparently I saw like some headline about the episode. It's episodic, like they're dropping week over week.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's like there was some episode that dropped yesterday or something about the fight, the Battery Park fight, right? And so, you know, I think it's definitely interesting, but I do think that part of me feels conflicted because obviously I've been like living a similar dynamic with CBS, which is like institutions deciding like whose story gets told and like in what way. And there's no actual recourse for the people who like are actually part of it. So I do feel slightly conflicted about it.
It is like, just to like pile on that, because this is an interesting, I watched that episode last night, and it is very odd because it was so clearly fan fiction, because like we all saw, you know, there's all these images of this fight that they had in Washington Square Park that nobody knows what they were
Washington Square Park, not Battery.
Nobody, Washington Square Park. Nobody knows. There's no audio of it. There was no witnesses. It's like, we don't know what they were fighting about. And in the show, they do something like very like lovely and romantic, which is they're like, okay, these images that, you know, where they're having this like heated, awful fight actually was them sort of like figuring out their love for one another. It's like, they don't, you know, they're like coming together in it. And it's about whether or not she's going to accept his proposal. And like, it wasn't even the timeline of what happened in reality. And so like, you're both like enamored with this love story that they're putting forth. And then you're also like, this is fan fiction that probably didn't exist. And these were probably even more complicated, even less perfect people than we imagine. And it is bizarre, but like, I just, you know, I'm but a mortal.
Yeah, exactly. We need distractions in these dark times.
Yes, ma'am.
Listen,
Yes, ma'am.
I had an obsession with the Andrew Cunanan Ryan Murphy show. Like
Yeah.
that was I wish I could like go and Men in Black my brain so I could watch that one again because that one was so fucking good. And it's like, I do think it's hard though, Rebecca. Like, I don't think if you are a public figure and you've put a lot of your life out there to be a public figure, which like JFK Jr. did when he was alive, like, he wrote books, he had a magazine, he was a very public figure.
Sure, yeah.
I don't think that you get unfortunately, I don't think as the family you get to say like you can't make a movie about our public figure because they've passed away. I don't think that's fair at all. What I think is hard is Ryan Murphy comes at any critique of it, and he did this with Menendez as well. Any critique of it, he's just like, fuck you, instead of being like, hey, like but some of the actors from like the Menendez one were very good about being like, hey, I kind of understand. Like I'm listening and whatever. So I think part of this is just the way that Ryan Murphy responds to any criticism is always like very aggressive and defensive.
I also think the timing could I watched this and Caroline Kennedy is like a character in it. And like that's the part that makes me cringe is like this woman who's like known so much grief and must be in like today, this moment going through immense grief because Tatiana Schlossberg has been my moment on the show before in the past too. Like that makes me sad is to be like this living group of people who live with this grief have to see it publicized in this way. And also probably if they watch it would be like, well, that's not true. And that's not what happened. And in all sorts of different ways. And that gives me the ick, but I'm sure as hell going to watch the next episode. So
there's not a lot of good TV. So what are you going to do?
Yeah. What are you going to do? Eliza, tell the people where they can find you. You are the best. We love having you. But
oh my gosh, it's always so fun to chat with you both, even in these dark times. I'm everywhere. I'm on Instagram, Orlins, Substack. My Substack's called Objection Everything. I'm on TikTok, Eliza Orlins, YouTube at Eliza.Orlins. Truly under my full government name everywhere you can be found. So.
And we hope back here on The Moment soon.
And y'all come back on Monday. We have a great guest. We have Lori Siegel from Mostly Human Media. Really excited to have her on. No?
Sorry.
Is that the wrong
Tuesday.
Guest?
No.
Tuesday.
You keep saying Monday in our text message, and I keep being like, I want to make sure you know it's Tuesday.
I do know it's Tuesday. I'm not my sisters.
Yeah,
just show up on Monday.
Exactly.
Okay, guys, thanks so much. Thank you, Vienna, for producing this episode. Thank you to Tara Palmeri for coming on as our guest. We will see you guys back on Tuesday.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.